there's like pop development stuff, you get something totally raw and you mould it, but if you're in a kind of band type scene, then for the bigger labels, they definitely, by the time they sign you, they want to be like, oh, you've got this many Facebook fans and this many views on YouTube, and they wanted to see the beginning of a culture around a band. I think what we do is different. So sometimes, well, we're making smaller bets, right? So if you're like Island Records, you're signing something, you're talking about probably tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds. We would argue we take great risk because we work with artists. There's one we're working with at the moment who's sent a demo, and we listen to every demo we get sent. We put them on a club night. We send
listen to every demo you get sent?
Yeah.
So do we.
Absolutely, yeah.
You do as well?
Yeah. Look, one thing I would say, so I think there's two things, like how easy is it to get heard? And there's two things. One is like how easy is it to get heard by a label and get a deal, and one is how easy to get heard by fans and an audience. And I think, you know, how easy to get heard by a label, it's obviously not easy. Like, I've managed artists and written beautiful fluent emails to people who run labels that I love, including Simon, actually, who's not here, so I can say it because it's not so embarrassing. And and it's when you don't hear back, you don't get a positive response, it's difficult. But you know, I don't believe that there are hundreds and hundreds of like, you know, amazing, wonderful, brilliant bands that in a parallel universe are the biggest band in the world, who just load of cloth-eared label people just don't understand why they're amazing. I think, you know, it's kind of hard to cut through and get heard by labels, but I do think if you're good, you'll find a way to someone who's prepared to spend a bit of money helping you find an audience.
What I find with majors, they look at labels like ours, like the development labels, and we'll put out a single, and they'll kind of like be in the shadows waiting to see what happens, and if it goes well, then they'll kind of pounce and be like...
Do they get the options on anyone that you put out initially?
So the aim of our label is to upstream to Universal.
Okay.
So like Sony is snooping about, we're kind of always talking to the managers and being like, yeah, but Bare Note Polydor's really, really good. Kind of trying to teeter it over a bit. But that's definitely what they do, I think, quite a lot.
And as you say, they are willing to spend money for you to do that, because it's less money than they would spend, have to spend traditionally developing.
We spend £1,500 on a single, and they would spend however much more.
Yeah.
So works quite well.
And do they have any other sort of rights at that stage in publishing or anything like that?
No, nothing. Like what we've done with Spector is we put out 3 singles. On the 3rd single, they're signed with Fiction, but who's within Universal. They're like a major label in Universal, and we kind of co-A in our 3rd single, and we're like, actually it's too early, we'll put out this single instead. It'll still be on an indie, ours.
Yeah.
So it was less of a risk for them to be putting out the single fully by Fiction.
And can I ask, if it's not too detailed, at that stage when you're developing artists and using this model, are you funding the recording or giving them tour support, or living costs as used to be the case back in the day?
Like, we don't really for most
or is
of our
it just actually production and distribution?
Promo, production, distribution.
Okay. So
it's also association, I would say, as well.
Yeah.
It's like if you're upstreaming to something like Universal, it's basically you're giving the credence and the kudos to the band by being on your label before it goes into a faceless...
Yeah, exactly.
Not that Fiction's faceless.
No, but it's like, it can get lost in that building. And so I think we don't give them advances or anything.
No.
But then, so if we want them to go and do like some demos, then, for example, with Splash, we just put them in the studio, like a cheap, small studio, just to get some demos done for their next single.
Okay, so you're spending money on producing the records and then marketing and distributing them, but not actually giving them traditional advances, as used to be the case?
No.
And do you think that's similar across the board?
I don't think anybody would give the advances out that we've seen even 5 years ago now, to be quite honest.
It depends with us per release, I think. If we're thinking, so we've got this band Splash, and we know that they've gone to see loads of A&Rs at major labels, but we're worried that if after we've done 2 singles with them, then they'll sign to say Ireland or something and just get completely lost. And because I see them like every week, and we'll talk and be like, what do you want to do? This is our merch idea. Do you like it? Kind of just really personal. And I think if like we're going to try and do their album, like try and somehow get some marketing or something to do it, so we don't want to lose it.
But with lower advances across the board, how do bands or artists fund that?
A lot of artists work as well. A lot of the artists that we work, apart from the two biggest bands that we work with, everybody has jobs.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So everyone apart from Lostprophets?
And Bring Me the Horizon and Bullet, but they're not on the label anymore. So.
Yeah. But everyone else has day jobs in some shape or form.
Or jobs that are pretty flexible, people temping or working in restaurants, people working in bars. And it's a hard slog, but I mean, if you've got to believe in yourself to make other people believe in you, you know what I mean? So I mean, they're funding it and doing jobs that they might not necessarily like in order to fund the next level of their lives. And they're aware that not all the money can come from labels. Because I was talking like sort of maybe 10, 12 years ago when it was everybody used to come to you for cash all the time.
Yeah.
And now it's just like,
yeah, we're so honest. We're just like, we don't have it. We can't do that. So, unless we think because with some bands we'll like do some t-shirts because we think they'll sell, but others were like they probably won't. They need to do another release before we can do that and stuff. So it completely depends per release. I think the amount of money that we spend.
But also, I mean, going back to the branding thing that you were saying before, I mean, we work quite a lot with brands now to help fund tours and buy bands vans or to get equipment and things like that. And I think what you were saying about the branding thing as well, I also think it's to do with the fact that people are bombarded every day with brands anyway, so people don't see it anymore. Anyway, so I mean, it's not so much that it's cheesy, even though a lot of people do shy away from it slightly. But if it's shying away from it or getting 50 grand for a sync from Lucasade, even though it is Smith Klein Beecham that's going to fund your touring for a year, people can't afford to say no.
Because there's not money out there that there was.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always remember John Peel used to do loads of voiceovers and adverts, didn't he? And everyone was always outraged that John Peel should be doing that. And he's like, well, I went into a studio for an hour and that's paid for my son to go to university for a year. You know, it's like it's not rocket science, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, you know, I don't care if I don't buy this Lucasade or whatever.
Keep his value.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think at that stage as well of artists' careers, it's maybe an obvious thing to say, but managers are so important. And I think maybe there was a previous era where mass generalisation alert, but a manager was the person who went in and got you your record deal and negotiated as big a deal as possible. And I think now, especially at the early stage, I mean, we work with people who have, like, before they've even got managers or lawyers sometimes, but if people that we're going to work with are managed, we will often, you know, an important part of the package to us, an important part of the, like, can we build something here, can we get behind this, is whether we think the manager is, you know, is good and has the right ideas. And at the early stage you're talking about, in the absence of big advances in tour sport, a lot of that is about someone who can help an artist who isn't bringing in lots of revenue from their music commit to music and bring in money in other ways and do smart deals, as you say, with kind of van companies or musical instrument companies, or cuts good studio deals, or be out there like slogging away trying to get them a sync or trying to get them a big paying show, whatever it is. So the manager is a really important part of that.
I agree, and also having a flexible relationship with them as well, because we've worked with managers in the past that make your life harder than easier, and I would actually walk away from a band right now if I thought the manager was a nightmare. Because bearing in mind, you're the person picking up the phone to them all the time, and if you don't want to take that phone call, you don't have a relationship with the band, and sometimes that can be a total make or break part of the deal. And I'm a manager as well. So what I'm saying,
But is that because they're managers who don't necessarily have the best interests of the band at heart, or they don't know what they're doing, perhaps?
I think that's the case. There's a lot of cases where people come in as friends of the band and the friendship breaks down very quickly because suddenly they realise it is business, and sometimes business is a shit business in music, and you really do have to take things on the chin a lot. And sometimes people just don't really know what they're doing. Sometimes people have got their own interests at heart, possibly not the band's. And also some people are just really nice people and just can't juggle the 50 things that you've got to do as a manager. Inexperience is a lot to do with it. And table banging's another one. I can't stand aggressive managers.
The guy with the ponytail who comes in and bangs the table.
Don't know that one. No. Red braces. I'm not even mentioning that one. Red braces.